Well, welcome back again. Next to last chapter. Wow, I'm getting close. Chapter 15. And we're getting close to killing a bunch of people here. I'm talking about chapter 15 and 16 about the Civil War. America's bloodiest war. You know, all the wars this country have ever been involved in, all the way up through Vietnam. Not as many Americans have died until we get past Vietnam. World War I, World War II. We finally killed as many Americans as we killed in the Civil War. Add them all together, and we killed as many in the Civil War. Right, nearly right at it. And that was us killing us. Hard to believe. Hard to believe. When the war broke out, if you look at it on paper, you look at who had the railroad, who had the gun factories, who had the ammunition, who had the troops, who had the railroads, who had everything going for them. Manufacturing, transportation, everything. The South did not have a prayer. There is no way the South could win the Civil War. Except when the war did break out, it was the North. In almost every battle, almost every battle took place in the South. And the South felt like they had been invaded. They believed it with all their heart. And at night, they didn't fight at night all that much in those days. At night, it was a time to go out on the battlefield and tend to the dead and the dying of both sides. The battlefield would be littered with those that were wounded and dead and dying. And you'd have a soldier in gray laying next to a soldier in blue. And the northern soldier might say, "What is wrong with you guys? You jump up out of the trench and you come charging out of 60, 70, or 100 cannons firing grape shot and everything in the world at you, and you're charging into these cannons. It's suicide. What is wrong with you?" And the Southern boy laying there dying next to the dying Union soldier would often say, "You invaded my country. I was baptized in a little creek right over there. That's my family home up there on the hill. That's the church my parents and their parents attended right there on the other hill. You're in my backyard, sir. What did you expect me to do?" And when the Southern soldier asked the Northern soldier, "Why did you come down here? What is your purpose? What are you doing here?" If they had any answer at all, most of them would say, "Well, I'm a soldier and I was sent down here." They might say, "You seceded." "You what?" I did what? I seceded." "Yeah, your state seceded from the Union. So now I got to come down here and kill you." The South had a much stronger reason, I wouldn't say better reason, but a stronger reason to fight, at least all the way up to the Emancipation Proclamation, which was an exercise by Lincoln to turn the war into a full, all-out civil war over civil rights. But until that time, almost every battle was won by the South when they had no chance whatsoever. But like I say, they were so motivated, they would charge right into the mouth of blazing cannons, just ripping them and horses and everything in their path to shreds. Well, anyway, let's talk about some of the other factors concerning the Civil War. Why did, other than that motivation I'm talking about, what other factors contributed to the North ultimately winning the Civil War? We know that the South won the very first battle, First Bull Run, which took place only about 30 miles from the front steps of the White House. And we do know that it was so bloody and it was so horrible, and the cannons were just decimating everything in their path, that both sides were shocked, and they backed up and stopped, both sides. If the South had pursued, since they were carrying the day, and Stonewall Jackson had managed to inspire the Southern troops to begin to be really successful on the battlefield. We know that that was probably the only chance the South had to win the Civil War, and that is to pursue the North right on into the White House, which they could have done. Go into the White House and shoot President Lincoln in the head, and the Civil War would have been over. The South would have won, and we would have had two countries today. That's one argument. Since it didn't happen, we don't know what could have, would have, should have happened. That's one scenario that many historians believe. What other factors can you come up with that would indicate that the North was destined to win? Number two, what other options did the Confederacy have? Should they have just skipped the war entirely? What could they have done to overcome some of the disadvantages that the North had, other than running? Obviously the Northern war machine was incredibly formidable. So what could the South have done that might have given them a better chance? We've already talked about tactics and technology, got away from both sides, but especially the South. You cannot keep fighting a war with Mexico tactics when the technology had moved way beyond the single shot, smooth bore rifle, a turret rifle, and where major battles would line up 100 cannons on each side. You cannot keep jumping up out of the trench and charging the enemy with a big old rebel yell and expect not to bleed yourself to death. And the South never caught on. They never got it. The tactics had changed. The tactics did not change, but the technology had moved way beyond using those kind of tactics. Thirdly, should President Lincoln have done anything different in the, especially the early stages of the Civil War? Could he have mitigated perhaps how bloody the war was, how vicious it was? Could he have somehow ended it sooner? What about the exercise of power? Did Lincoln do anything illegal? He locked up thousands because they were a danger. Not because they'd done anything wrong, not because they'd even said they were going to do something wrong, but because they lived in close proximity to to Washington, D.C. Baltimore was a stronghold for the Confederacy for a long time. So what about locking up people without any due process? What happened to the Fourth Amendment's right to privacy in your home against police and militia barging in and dragging you off to jail? What about the equal rights? What about equal rights and due process of the 14th and 15th Amendment? Were those in effect when Lincoln locked up hundreds of people because they lived in the wrong place, because they were Confederates? It's a hard question. Hard question. If he had known, he probably would have got shot much sooner. He'd probably got shot in the first few months of the Civil War. I knew that was going to happen sooner or later. My nose had been running all day. I knew I was about to sneeze, and I was embarrassed. I couldn't stop it. What did religion have to do with the Civil War? What kind of role did it play? I've been out mowing grass today, and I think the hay fever's about to get me. Did religion assume any kind of a prominent role? Was it just simply something people talked about? Or did religion actually, did Christian principles have anything to do with the way we waged the war, the way we entered the war, and the way we were so readily ready to leap in and start shooting at each other. I'll leave those points with you to ponder. It's been written about endlessly. Hundreds of books have been written about the Civil War and who won and why and all that sort of thing. But this is an interesting chapter, and it's going to be wrapped up next week with chapter 16, where we'll actually be doing some killing. Thanks for watching the video, and I hope I haven't bored you to tears. Sorry, my nose is running today. I'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.